Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So, you're here in town. Tell us a little bit about, first of all, what brings you here?
Well, I just got here to do a little press junket for The Lottery, which is airing on Lifetime this Sunday. 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific?
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I mean, I appreciate that coming into this character, basically, you're playing you're kind of an assistant, I guess you could say, in terms of research that's going on to solve a problem. What is this problem? Can you explain this a little bit?
To put it subtly, yeah, a bit of a problem. So it's set 10 years in the future, 11 years in the future, and we're calling it kind of a dystopic near future, because what's happened basically is there's become a global infertility crisis. Women have stopped bearing children. Nobody knows why. There's speculation that it's like an environmental problem. Could be anything. But basically, all the world's resources are focused on figuring out a way to solve this. No child's been born for 6 years, and this is becoming like a real problem. The species on the verge of extinction. Something's got to be done. So yeah, we're working in the lab. We're trying to find a way to fertilize eggs, and we managed to fertilize 100 embryos.
Tell me a bit about James, because in the first episode we don't really get a lot of detail about what his story is.
He's a scientist, and he's devoted his entire life to embryology, basically, which is his field of study. He's a geneticist. He's somebody who focuses day in and day out on solving this problem. He works with Dr. Alison Lennon, who's the head of embryogenesis, the lab where we're working. And somewhere along the line, they've had a relationship, something personal, something maybe a little bit sexy, but that's subverted, I guess, in an effort to pursue their sort of professional relationship, which is like the most important thing in their lives.
Right.
It's very important that they succeed at their job, because they're basically on the cutting edge of this research, and nobody else is caught up to where they are by basically fertilizing these embryos.
And I have to ask, for you, are you at all scientifically minded? Are you interested in science at all, or was this kind of like a bit of a learning curve, jumping into this role?
It's funny. It's been a bit of a return to form, a return to a place that I never really expected to come back to again. I studied human biology and zoology at the University of Toronto.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
wow.
that's my degree.
So this is actually right up your alley, really.
It kind of is up my alley.
Pretty close, at least.
I worked in a genetics lab here at Sick Kids for 3 years when I was in high school. So
that's amazing.
I'm very familiar with the equipment that we're using and stuff, so sometimes everybody kind of looks around, they're waiting for a tech to come on set and show them how to use a pipette. I'm like, you do this. It's funny though, it's like you never expect that something you did in your past is going to come back to out of the blue. But it's definitely something that attracted me to the show. This idea that we could create these science-oriented characters without creating 1.5 dimensional parodies of what they're supposed to be. Like these are people with feelings, people who feel jealousy, people who have desires, and people who have passions that fuel their research and their work. Right. These are people that I've worked with, and they're some of the best people I know. So.
Well, I mean, it's an interesting topic because, certainly, I can't think of a more, in terms of the things we've seen in shows, I can't think of too many more horrifying things than the idea that basically human procreation just stops.
The procreation doesn't stop, but the end result of procreation.
The end result, I should say, yeah.
That's funny, actually, that plays in our show. But yeah, even in the past couple of years, there have been so many similar sort of crises in, what we might consider lesser species, like bees. Really, in the last few months, starfish, 95% extinction with northwest coast sea stars. That's huge. That's that's telling. And that isn't random. I think that there's a pattern forming without sounding crazy about it. But I think, it's, I don't know, maybe it's just like a small step to where it starts to affect mammal species, and then, we're on that list. We're just another species of mammal. There's nothing that makes us particularly unique except that we're at the top of the food chain and we think we're special.
Right. Environment, you can't talk enough about environment today. Do we get any hints in the rest of the season, what might be causing the issue?
Yes.
Okay. I don't expect full details.
Yeah. No, we do get into it, but it is something that we're actively sort of researching. We get out of the lab and we start to we start to look around and ask questions and do a little bit of detective work and come up with some answers that are sort of unsavory. But it's worth mentioning that I think we are kind of at a tipping point where culture has ceased to affect environment so much as environment is dictating culture, and I think that's something that plays out in our show in an interesting way.
Well, and the other interesting side of it, I love the kind of subterfuge that's going on. Obviously, there's something about the government that's going on, and there's
government or a sort of a satellite agency. It's really unclear, but there's a very high level of strangeness and paranoia that plays out on the show. People are doing things that they shouldn't be doing, and you're not really sure who's pulling the strings or who they're taking their orders from, and that's intentional. There's a lot of information that's withheld and a lot that's kind of divulged in the first episode, and it's made that way so people can talk about it and sort of tune in for more episodes. I
guess I'm wondering, in terms of where things go, what's the most interesting thing that you got to play in this season? What was something that really stood out for you?
Well, we're still shooting the season.
Oh, you're still shooting?
I took a day off today. We're shooting, this is episode 6, so get this. We're shooting episode 1. By the time we're finished filming, episode 7 will be on the air. That's how tight we are to our release date. So
that's cool, though.
Yeah, I want to say as much as I do, but that's kind of not true. That would be disingenuous.
What has been exciting so far, then?
Just a lot of the personal stuff between me and Allison, Marley Shelton's character. She's a terrific actor, and I love working with her. So it's fun to play around with the scenes and try to find things to make them more interesting and sort of amp them up a little bit. And, we kind of let our emotions ride out, because a lot of the scenes, some of them can be technical and stuff, and we try to find ways to punch it up, the humanity in them.
Well, I do love, just off the first episode, the kind of chemistry that's going on.
Good, yeah. And it's volatile.
She's kind of using you a little, you could say, at one moment, and
She's very, she can be stubborn, and I can be stubborn, so it's good to have that kind of push and pull, definitely.
Well, thank you very much. Anything else coming up for you now that we can watch for you?
So far it's just this. Last year was insanely busy, and some of the shows that I shot were sort of petering out into this year, and I think Motive just premiered in Canada just a couple months ago, so that was, I think, the tail end of it, and did the Christmas CSI episode and this and that. So, actually, I did a movie in Romania last October called Repossessed, and they just had a screening in LA, so apparently it went well. Cool. So that might come out. It's a little horror comedy, I think.
Horror comedy, nice.
Yeah.
You never quite know till you see the final cut, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Well,
so that's something to look forward to. And then there's a local Canadian film director named Peter Lynch that I'm going to be working with this fall. I'm really excited about that. So, yeah, I guess keep an eye out for that.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Good luck with the website.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck with the show.
Thanks, man.